James, are you back?
I'm back. I'm here.
I don't hear him.
We got him in our ear.
Well, I can't hear him.
Yeah.
If somebody can turn up my volume, because I got to hear our main man, James Rapien. James, are you there?
I'm here. You got me? Can you hear me?
Okay. Well, I can't hear him, but you tell me, though, Casey, everybody else can hear him?
Yep.
Okay, everybody else can hear him. So I'm going to we're not going to do sign language because I'm not good enough at that. But I want you to walk me through James Rapien. First of all, I asked you the question about your Twitter site and your Twitter account where people can find you and follow you on Twitter or anywhere else that you're out there.
Yeah, at James Rapien on Twitter, Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube, the Locked On Bengals podcast, allbengals.com. A lot of places, Tom, no doubt.
You're everywhere. I mean, you were somewhere last night doing some show, right?
Yeah, I was with Paul Daner Jr. and Jay Morrison. They were doing that Hear That podcast, Growling at 50 West. So had to stop by and talk a little Bengals.
Very, very nice. All right. Let's talk about the Bengals for a second. Health-wise, how's everybody doing going into week one against the Steelers?
About as good as you could ask for. Now, there's a couple guys. Devin Asiasi, the new tight end they claimed last week, is dealing with a quad issue. I'm not sure he would be active anyways, just because he's still learning the playbook. He hasn't been in the system long. And then Trent Taylor, and this is the one to watch today. Trent Taylor popped up on the injury report. Is it serious? Is it not? It's a hamstring, and he's obviously their starting punt returner. So we'll see if he can go today. I think, and I always lean towards, guys going, but it really depends on how that hamstring feels today. It sounds like he tweaked it in practice yesterday. So he was limited. We'll see if he can go today. But that's really the only injury to watch. Drew Sample will be back and has practiced for the past couple of weeks, even though he had a slight MCL strain about a month ago or so in practice. So overall, Bengals pretty healthy going into Sunday.
All right, let me ask you about the tight end position for a second. You mentioned Sample; he was a guy they drafted, high round draft pick, and obviously, they brought in Hayden Hurst, who was a first round draft pick, if I remember right, from the Baltimore Ravens a number of years ago. He lost his job there. What kind of season should Bengal fans expect out of Hayden Hurst? They have all these other weapons, so he's about the eighth guy you talk about when you get to the offense. But do you see them using him a great deal because they've had success at the tight end position since Zach Taylor got here?
I do. I think he gives them a new dynamic on offense that defenses are going to have to account for. And they may not account for it right away, but when you're double teaming Jamar Chase, which I expect the Steelers to do on Sunday, and you're trying to slow down T. Higgins or Joe Mixon or even Tyler Boyd, well, having a tight end like Hayden Hurst, who's a great route runner, strong with the ball in his hands, explosive. I think he's going to get plenty of yards after the catch. It can be a nightmare for opposing defenses, and I think they're going to have a lot of good matchups with Hurst, a lot of single coverage. Sometimes he'll be having to beat a linebacker, which I'll take him against any linebacker with the way he runs routes. And Joe Burrow likes throwing to the tight end. His first touchdown pass in the NFL went to C.J. Uzomah. Uzomah had two touchdown games last year, including that one against Jacksonville, which was obviously a comeback victory on Thursday Night Football. So, yeah, I think that Hayden Hurst is going to be a big part of this offense. I'm not thinking, he's going to take the place of Boyd or anything like that, but I do think he gives the Bengals offense another dynamic that they haven't had.
As far as Burrow is concerned, he had the appendectomy, missed the entire preseason. I don't know how much he would have played anyway in the preseason games because no one else played. We've talked about that topic. But he did lose a little bit of weight. You brought that up, James, the last time you were here last week. Do you think he's 100% healthy going into the season?
I do. I think he's 100% healthy, and I think he's feeling good considering the circumstances. Do I think he's where he was, say, July 20th before he had appendicitis and had to go through this? I don't know about that because basically post-surgery, everything he's done was to try to get as close as he could to that point. But that includes obviously recovering for 2.5 weeks. and then a bunch of protein shakes. He said he was eating everything in sight, 4 protein shakes a day. He was lifting probably heavier, I would say, and changed his workout routine a little bit to put on that weight. Good weight, of course, he's trying to put on. So I don't know if he's feeling as good as he was maybe pre-surgery, but I think he's pretty close. And from a overall health standpoint, I don't think he's at 97%. I think he's at 100%, but he might not be feeling as good as he was feeling before the surgery.
What about Jesse Bates?
If that makes
we
sense.
know, yeah, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Jesse Bates has been a good player here. Sometimes he's been a great player here. He held out, came in when he knew he was going to be making the big bucks. I think somewhere upwards of $13 million, $14 million. You mentioned last week he is going to be the starter this weekend. How does he look coming into this season?
Really good. I think he's going to play the full allotment of snaps and be out there. I mean, there were games last year he played every single defensive snap. And so I would expect maybe a little less just because they do have Dax Hill, and you can give Bates a little bit more of a break there. 90% of the snaps, 95% of the defensive snaps. I think he's going to be on the field a lot, and he should want to be. I mean, it's such a crucial year for him in his career. If he goes out there and he plays like an all-pro, and makes the Pro Bowl and has 6 interceptions and has a career year, well, he's going to make himself a lot of money. And this could be his one opportunity to do that and put himself in a position to really cash in. So there's pressure on him to do that. The Bengals are okay with that because they want the best Jesse Bates they can get. And I think he's in shape. He showed up in shape. And he came in at the right time. A couple of weeks ago, was able to get reacclimated with his new teammates, get comfortable. And so now I think he'll be ready to go on Sunday.
Do you think, James, the Bengals have enough pass rushing ability? I know Hendrickson had the great year last year, got hurt near the end, got slowed down a little bit. I'm sure that made a big difference in his game as they went into the playoffs and that kind of thing. But outside of him, and Hubbard's been very good at times, but do you think they have enough pass rush to really create problems for opposing quarterbacks?
They need someone else to step up.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. You know, with Larry Ogunjobi leaving on the interior, and he was a big disruptor as an interior pass rusher. Will it be B.J. Hill? I thought he was pretty effective last year.
He was really good last year, yep.
And he's going to play more snaps. So partially him. The third rounder, Zachary Carter on the inside, could play and fill part of that role, but I don't think he's going to be Larry Ogunjobi. And so I'm looking at Joseph Osai. Can Joseph Osai in year 2, and we all remember the preseason game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he sacks Tom Brady, has a great debut, and then we don't see him again. I think the telling sign for Joseph Osai was the Bengals really limiting his snaps in the preseason. I think they saw a lot from him in practice, and they said, yeah, we'll get his feet wet a little bit because he just hasn't played NFL football, but we're not going to risk him, much like all of their starters that they left out and held out throughout the preseason. So Osai is the guy that they're banking on not only being a disruptor on the edge, but being good against the run. And so that's the guy that I would keep an eye on. And I think he's capable of doing it. He had a really stellar training camp, was mixing it up, getting into it with his teammates. And I think he has an edge to him. And I think that's going to bode well for him, even though he's essentially a rookie.
All right, I'll only keep you a couple more minutes because I know you're racing down to the stadium as they get ready for practice here on this Friday. They practice in the stadium on Fridays, right? If I remember correctly, back when I had a few of their games with Fox, they move into the stadium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just a light walkthrough. Easy Friday.
Do you expect, and we had Reuben Brown on the program yesterday, right? Great player in Buffalo, 9-time Pro Bowler. And he was talking about Aaron Donald and how, you'd really like to see teams run the ball. He wanted to see Buffalo run the ball a little bit more to really attack guys like Aaron Donald. The Steelers have very good defenders. Watt's up there. Hayward might be the second best defensive interior lineman in the league behind Donald. Has had a great career out of Ohio State. Do you think with 4 new starters on the offensive line, James, that we might see the Bengals run the ball more this year?
Certainly. I think so, especially you look at that right side. La'el Collins and Alex Kappa, they get push in the run game. And that's just what they've done throughout their career, and they've done it for a long time. And so, yeah, I absolutely think that we could see – I don't know about more. I don't know if more is the right answer, because this offense is going to be built around Joe Burrow and him pushing the ball downfield and explosive plays. But I expect the run game to be more efficient and certainly more effective. Joe Mixon struggled at the end of last year. He averaged under 3.5 a carry. I think it was around 3.3 yards a carry in December, and it's not like they really got going in the postseason. That's where it has to change. They have to be better in short yardage situations. Get Mixon free where he's not making a cut the moment he takes the ball from Burrow on the exchange. And so if he's not getting touched until he's past the line of scrimmage, he's hard to tackle when he gets going downhill. So I think that's what I'm looking for. I don't know if they'll run it much more numbers-wise, but I expect it to be more effective when they do. And instead of averaging 4.1 a carry, maybe it's 4.7 a carry, and it's up towards the top of the NFL in yards per attempt, which would be great for an offense that is plenty explosive and should see a lot of two safety looks trying to take those big plays away from Chase and Higgins. So on Sunday, I wouldn't be shocked at all if it's a Joe Mixon game, especially early on.
Well, and Mixon has had great history against the Steelers, especially last year. He ran the ball very effectively against that team. But that's last year. This is this year. Last thing I want to ask you. I love the human side of stories, because I think we look at some of these guys, we put them up on a pedestal. We think they are gladiators and warriors and robots and all this kind of thing. I thought one of the coolest stories I'd heard in a long time was a story of Mike Thomas when he found out that he was going to be a team captain for this team, the special teams captain, and how he was brought to tears over this. I remember meeting this young man when he was bouncing around the league, has always been a good special teams player. Bengals brought him in, did a really nice job. They had him in training camp. They let him go. They bring him back over, just some technical money sort of stuff, that kind of thing, maneuvering kind of thing. But share that story a little bit about Mike Thomas yesterday and finding that out. That was a really cool moment.
It was, and especially for a guy that has bounced around. I mean, he's a veteran, and in this locker room, there's veterans, but they're young veterans, 27, 28 years old. A lot of guys on the right side of 30, as I'll say. But Mike Thomas is not. He's on the wrong side of 30. They call him Uncle Mike, which I think is hilarious because he's not old. He's old by Bengals locker room standards, and that's how I know I'm getting old, when I'm the oldest guy in the locker room when you count the roster and look at those guys, or one of them certainly. So no, it was really good to see. And so he was one. And the other one I want to mention, DJ Reader as well, was named captain for the first time. And it was sort of the same thing. He was in his locker and just kind of staring at his phone. He's the one who told me he was named captain probably about 2 hours before it was announced. And so it means a lot to these guys. And I think when you think about potential letdowns and all of those things, this team is just so focused and task-oriented, all of those things, and they have the right leaders in place, whether it's young guys like Joe Burrow or old Uncle Mike like Michael Thomas, who's bounced around the league but has found a home here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I think Von Bell's a hell of a player. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be here beyond this coming year, but I mean, that guy's a player, man. And he brings it every single game, and he is one of the defensive captains as well. So that's really, really good to see. James, I know you got to run. Can't thank you enough for your time today. Look forward to catching up with you next week. You got any kind of field prediction before you go on the game?
I think it's going to be sort of ugly early, a defensive-based game. Von Bell probably going to have a big game. By the way, I love Von Bell too, mostly because he wakes up at like 4 a.m. to work out. Which
God, I wish I could do that.
One day maybe I'll get to that level. But no, I think this defense shows up, plays at a really high level, and the offense starts slow, finishes fast, and the Bengals win 24-20.
Okay, wow, 24-20. You don't expect them to cover the spread.
I don't.
Okay, James. All right. I may have to alter my picks after talking to you. We have those coming up later on. Hey, have a great weekend. Enjoy the season opener. Your stuff is awesome, and I know everybody and his brother is following it. If you want to know what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals, James Rapien is your guy. James, thanks for your time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
James Rapien from Sports Illustrated. You can follow him on Twitter, follow him everywhere. I mean, you just heard it. He's a guy that's down there in the locker room. He's breaking stories, and DJ Reader's telling him 2 hours before the Bengals even announce who their starters are, and James is all over it.